friends. We're going to talk about why you are obsessed with people who don't want you back.
Yeah.
We got Nicole, the neuroscientist. You got me, the dating and relationship coach. So talk to me. What comes to mind for you first when I say, why do I want someone so bad that doesn't want me back?
Okay. From a neuroscientific perspective, your brain is a predictive machine. And so what happens is we start to assign more importance, salience to somebody and put them in a higher category or on a pedestal. We hold them in higher regards because of this predictive model that we've built in our own heads. And so we end up obsessing over the wrong person. We also have dopamine, which is released in anticipation of a reward. And when we start to get breadcrumbs, or maybe they show a little bit of what we thought we wanted and we're looking for the signs, oh, I want a relationship, they don't. And then they show you even a glimpse of some kind of reciprocation, you can be like, oh, that's the evidence I need to see that this person actually wants the same thing as me. And so we reinforce this pattern where we start to look for cues about this person and what we want to try and prove ourselves correct.
Yes, that cognitive bias of like, oh, see, and then mix that in with those childhood core beliefs and the wounds, right? I love how I'm thinking hypothetically.
If I were to have gone through the same thing, which I did a million times.
Whoops. Every time I obsessed over somebody that wasn't interested in what I wanted or didn't reciprocate or wasn't showing me the same interest, 99.9% of the time, it was less about them and more about, can I prove myself? How can I get them? What can I do to keep them? And then add to, so that's one aspect, then, which was childhood, right? I had to learn that from my caregivers. Then mix in the other aspect of, and if I do, what does that say about me, right? If I can change this person, then that means I am worthy and deserving and fill in the blank. And on top of it, more often than not, what pedestal have we put them on and what have we idealized about them? Like when I was obsessed with this one dude, I've talked about him on the podcast quite a few times.
Does he know this?
No, poor guy has no idea.
Okay, good.
We went on like 2 dates. It was like never anything real, but he was like this big celebrity. I lived in LA, so it was like not hard. And everybody, all of my friends were like, dude, what are you obsessed with this guy for? Like he breadcrumbs you, he barely shows you interest.
Those rose-tinted glasses, which will skewer your perception of how you see somebody.
Oh, desperately. And really what it was when I started to peel back the layers was, if he, the cool guy, the person people respect, likes me,
then
what does that say about me? Then I'm cool, I'm good, and then what happened? It didn't. So what did it do? It reaffirmed. See, the middle school girl in me was like, see, no one likes you. I told you you're not cool. And then it kept me on the loop of what else can I do to get him?
And that social rejection hits very viscerally. You know, evolutionary speaking, when we get rejected from a group, it hits the core wounds. We can't be rejected because we need to belong. And so we start to try and prove why we should be correct, why you should be with me. And you start to go on this roller coaster ride of trying to show them otherwise. So you start posting on your stories a little bit more. You start to drip feed information so that they can see you in a particular light, which then feeds further into this dopaminergic activity of reward seeking. And I say reward because your brain doesn't really understand the difference between what's actually enjoyable and what isn't. And there's another layer to this. Wanting and liking follow two very different paths in the brain. So you can be motivated to attain something without actually liking it.
I hear that all the time. It's the like, I dated, I was so gung-ho on them choosing me. And then 6 months in, you're like, I didn't even like them.
Exactly. And that's, we spoke about this in the podcast, but can I say that?
Yeah.
We spoke about it in the podcast. I always say to people, I'm like, do you actually even like this person? Because sometimes we get so hell-bent on them giving us affection or showing something that then we reciprocate.
Yeah.
And it's an automatic response that you just behave in a particular way because they've given you something. So now you're like, ooh, I like them. But actually sit back and relax. Do you actually like this person? Or have you just made it out to be something that it isn't and they're reciprocating? So now you're like, okay, I'm in. Let's play this game.
Yeah, well, because one of my favorite sayings is like, we only obsess over people that don't make us feel safe. And I know a lot of people are like, what does that mean? And it's like, what that actually means is that this person's not creating consistency, reciprocity. They're not creating an emotional safety. Someone that is emotionally safe is usually transparent, honest, vulnerable, will share things with you.
What is that?
You don't have to guess.
And what is that? It's not filling in the blanks.
Exactly.
It's actually, it is filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
It's filling in the blanks, and now your brain doesn't have to do it. So there's no need to obsess. Your brain doesn't need to go over and over in circles to try and predict this model because the model is being filled in by the actual facts.
Which is what healthy equals boring. It's like, no, the reason we want, when we go high, high, low, lows, up and down, one, that was familiar for me. That was what my nervous system knew. That's all my nervous system was acclimated to. And then on top of it, my brain was like, this is familiar. And what do we know about our brain is like, our brain loves shortcuts. Oop, we go from this to this. Yay, I don't have to do more work. She's doing so much already. So I can understand why she does. But I know for me, really, what I always say is like, take the shine off them. And I'll never forget, my friend told me that. We were at coffee years ago and she said, you got to make him less sparkly.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? Make him a real person. He's not the end all be all. I'm speaking in heterosexual norms. They are not the end all be all. They're not the one that got away. They're not the love of your life. They're not the one that you haven't felt any connection. It's like, stop putting the words to this person, because then you're telling your nervous system, I'm only safe if I have them. And if I'm only safe if I have them,
you're going to continue trying to pursue them.
Exactly.
I have something similar as an analogy, and it is the statue analogy. They look beautiful from here, but zoom in, look at the cracks, and it's fine. I'm not saying that, we need to dislike them because they've got cracks, but start to pay attention that they're not perfect either.
Yeah. It's not about villainizing, right?
No, totally not.
Never.
Totally
it's just,
not.
But like we said, when you lift the veil and you start to realize they're a human.
Yeah.
They're a human with limitations. Like even the guy I was referring to, not only was he a human, he was a fucked up human. Like he's still single, tumultuous relationships. But I thought I could be the one to fix him, because if I can fix that old chestnut, repetition compulsion. If I can fix him, then my father and all the people in the past.
You'll fix everything from the past. And that's exactly it.
And all it did, truth be told, was just put me further into a rabbit hole. It just kept me on this loop. And the
stuck.
Dopaminergic.
You know what?
Dopamine loop. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Dopaminergic.
Dopaminergic.
Yeah.
Yay, I did it. Norepinephrine was a hard one for me for a long time.
But, in England, we have noradrenaline.
No, thank you.
That doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. And we have to remember too, like the one aspect of the neurotransmitters that I love is like when cortisol is increased, right? You're stressed. When are they going to call me? When are they going to text me? Your other receptors are being depleted. Your dopamine is going down because your body needs everything to deal with the stress. So knowing that, right? Just being aware, then the one thing for me is like, you want to get off the loop. It's like, you have choices. You have choices. Is this person showing up for me? Here's my favorite thing. Regulate nervous system. And I want you to ask, what is in my control? What choice do I have?
I'm going to add another layer to this, which I didn't do in the podcast, and I'm upset with myself for it because I was thinking about it and I never got to it. So many things to say. But when your dopamine levels are very high because you're in this reward-seeking behavior, I need a response. I need to know if they like me, blah, 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 blah. What that does is it actually diminishes serotonin. Yeah. When there's a shortage, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I guess a shortage. Yeah.
When there's a shortage of serotonin, so everyone thinks that serotonin makes you happy. Yeah. It doesn't make you happy. It stabilizes your emotions. That when you feel a particular way, you can bounce back pretty quickly. So if you feel something happy, you come back to a healthy normal, because you can't live up there all the time. The problem is that when there's a shortage of serotonin, you start to get obsessive thoughts, you start to get intrusive thoughts, and it becomes a cycle that is self-perpetuating because dopamine is high to try and gain the reward, serotonin is low, which keeps you in a place of obsessive thinking, and so the cycle goes.
Okay, what can we actually do in that case? Like, would you find natural ways to replenish?
Yes, so exactly that. So you're going to be going through a withdrawal period because that all you need those neurochemicals. So one thing that you can do is to divert that dopaminergic activity or seeking of dopaminergic reward into something more sustainable, something more healthy, if you will. Like, go to the gym, go and hang out with your friends, go and take on a new hobby, use it for your goals. You know that thing you've been procrastinating on for ages? Use that dopamine for that, because you don't need to sit there and wait for a text message. No. It's just not going to work. You're going to end up in this cycle. Serotonergically, you can go and get some sunlight. Laughter is one of the best tools for serotonin increase. So, engaging with friends and just finding healthier ways of getting these neurochemicals into your life. And I say that metaphorically because they are in your brain creates them. You can also increase foods that have higher tryptophan. So tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin production, 5-HTP.
Yeah. Okay.
So things like turkey, soya beans, I'm not sure. You can look it up. There's so many things, rice, etc. Those will all increase your ability to create serotonin. I'm going to add another layer to it if you don't mind me going a little bit more scientific. The problem is when you are living in a chronic state of stress, anticipating a response that you're not getting, and then you're stressed because they haven't replied, and then it builds up in your head. what happens is you have higher levels of inflammatory cytokines because of the cortisol, because your body's getting prepared for if anything goes wrong, it needs to be able to repair. So inflammation increases. Inflammation disrupts the tryptophan pathway. So what happens is you start to create even less serotonin. But now on top of that, you're actually creating something called kynurenine and quinolinic acid. I'm only saying these names in case somebody wants to dive into the research on this side of things.
Me.
But what you need to know about these two what you need to know about these two molecules is that they are prodepressive and neurotoxic.
Oh.
So you start to become obsessive and depressed because you're not getting what you want. And it's just a vicious cycle.
Oh, I've never been on that or anything.
Neither.
Oh, weird. And I love the brain science. I love understanding it. And then when we tie in the psychology, it's like, listen, if you're obsessing over somebody, how familiar do they feel? Right? Like, what about them feels familiar? What has taken me from my prefrontal cortex to my amygdala? What is keeping me in that emotional state? What is heightening those emotions? What about them? And start to unpack the narrative. What is the narrative that I've put about them?
That we tell ourselves.
The story we create, right?
I'm not good enough. They don't like me, therefore.
I'll never meet anyone like them. I never connect with people. What you're doing is you're telling cognitive bias of like, there's no one else, scarcity mindset. And so you're like, I have to have them because if I don't get them,
I will never find anyone else.
That's it.
Yeah.
I can promise you there are almost 9 billion people and counting.
And you won't find someone like them. You'll find something different. That's maybe better.
Exactly.
Probably is better.
Probably is better.
It's probably better.
Let them go. Let go of people who have let go of you. Let go of people who are not reciprocating and choose people who choose you.
Because you're only holding on to the possibility of being proven right.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that because then it's true. What cognitive bias?
I knew it. It could.
And then when it doesn't, see, I told you no one wants me. And it's like, baby, that person had the big red flag waving from the beginning and you didn't see it. And that's okay.
Or you've pedestaled them and they didn't give you what you wanted, but you were still hoping for something different. Yeah. There's a cognitive dissonance there. And that comes up a lot when That comes up a lot where people say, look, I'm not looking for anything serious. And you go, yeah, me neither. Yeah. Lies. I'm actually going to try and change them. Yeah. Let's see if I can twist this one into something that I want.
If I could be the cool girl, right? I won't say my needs. I won't say anything.
No. I'll be the cool girl. I'll be 3 months down the line. Oh, they didn't want anything. Sideline.
Yeah.
Blindsided. What? I didn't see that one coming.
It's like you knew it from the beginning, and that's okay. Or even if they don't necessarily say, it's like their actions and words aren't aligning. Who they're showing up as is somebody that doesn't work for you. Take people as they are. Potential is beautiful if you're looking at motivation and drive and, like I might be broke. When I met Ryan, I was broke as shit, and I built this entire community and career because he saw the potential as who I was as a person, not the potential of when I'm done with them, they'll become this. Or all they need to do is just go to therapy and work through their childhood traumas and figure out their triggers. It's like, that's great, but that potential that you're betting on could take you years, may not ever happen. And then what happens? You lose you.
I'm so done dating potential.
I'm not doing it.
Never did. I'm dating at the moment and I'm just not doing it. I'm like, okay, you're not really aligning with where I'm at. It was great. Move on. I mean, I say that as if I've dated loads of people, but that's the mindset I would have if I was in that situation because I've worked on that. Yeah. I'm not dating potential. I've dated potential.
I've dated it. Doesn't get you anywhere. And at the end of the day, choose yourself because if you're scared of losing them, you've already lost yourself.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Thanks for joining, guys. We love our quick snips. Subscribe, follow Nicole, follow me, Insta, TikTok, YouTube. Well, if TikTok's still around, YouTube. And we have Nicole on the podcast. Listen to some of the episodes, watch them below. Thank you guys so much for streaming and joining.